Good morning. Welcome to Wrestlers
And Shaker.
on this beautiful sunny day in May, my favorite month. Okay, I just have a brief passage, and then I'm going to introduce our speaker for today. And the scripture passage is Ecclesiastes chapter 12. Anybody remember that? You'll remember it after I read it. So remember your Creator while you are still young, before those dismal days and years come when you will say, I don't enjoy life. That is when the light of the sun and the moon and the stars will grow dim for you, and the rain clouds will never pass away. Then your arms that have protected you will tremble, and your legs now strong will grow weak. Your teeth will be too few to chew your food, and your eyes too dim to see clearly. Your ears will be deaf to the noise of the street. You will barely be able to hear the mill as it grinds, or music as it plays, but even the song of a bird will wake you from sleep. You will be afraid of high places, and walking will be dangerous. Your hair will turn white. You will hardly be able to drag yourself along, and all desire will be gone. We are all going to our final resting place, and then there will be mourning in the streets. The silver chain will snap, and the golden lamp will fall and break. The rope at the well will break, and the water jar will be shattered. Our bodies will return to the dust of the earth, and the breath of life will go back to God, who gave it to us. Useless, useless, said the philosopher. It is all useless. But because the philosopher was wise, he kept on teaching the people what he knew. He studied proverbs and honestly tested their truth. The philosopher tried to find comforting words, but the words he wrote were honest. The sayings of wise men are like sharp sticks that shepherds use to guide sheep, and collected proverbs are as lasting as firmly driven nails. They have been given by God, the one shepherd of us all. Son, there is something else to watch out for. There is no end to the writing of books, and too much study will wear you out. After all this, there's only one thing to say. Have reverence for God and obey his commands, because this is all that man was created for. God is going to judge everything we do, whether good or bad, even things done in secret. It's the word of the Lord.
Except that nobody ever died because of too much thinking.
Think about that. I want to introduce to you our speaker. This is Lisa Rindner, and I have a little introduction about her. Lisa is an IONA staff member. She's a licensed geriatric social worker, and she is available to us, families, seniors, with a wide range of issues. She says, I provide support, guidance, and information to adults regarding their aging parents. I also help out-of-town adult children who call upon me to visit their parents and implement services they can't do from a distance. For those who are local, she meets with people either at the church or IONA, depending on the client's preference. Lisa also provides lots of coaching about how to talk to someone who is not yet ready to receive help, but who really needs it. Lisa has observed that we have what we call senior orphans in the congregation. Proud, independent men and women who are used to doing for themselves. You know somebody like that? There have been occasions when the minister joins her on home visits to help ease the older adult to accept assistance. And through her efforts, Lisa is able to link individuals to needed services. Those services are very complex in the network of different jurisdictions that we have, so that's very useful. Whether it's getting a physical therapist to visit, starting a meal program, linking the programs with activities, assisting with home health services. She is able to help older adults safely age in place, or when needed, to find alternative living arrangements that provide support. And so we're very happy that, Lisa, that you could come with us and share with us today. She has some handouts that she will also pass around, so please make sure you get one of those. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you. Great, thank you. Does everybody have a folder if they need? They're wonderful. I have some more handouts at the end that are up there as well. Well, thank you for that introduction, and thank you for having me here today. It's a lovely day. I'm so glad that you're all here. Looking forward to our time together. I want to share a little bit about my background and what led me to where I am today, and have time to address some important topics, as Paul mentioned, as far as successfully aging and how IONA Senior Services can help. I'll talk a little bit about aging in place, and talk a little bit about caregiving roles and keeping emotionally healthy while we are involved in many different roles and responsibilities. So I'll touch upon all those things, but also want you to feel comfortable to stop me and ask a question or share something. I'll have time throughout, not, we don't have to wait until the last few minutes. I find during these types of talks that it's much more meaningful and personal when it's not just me talking. So please feel free to stop me and ask or share something if it comes to mind for you. Well, I've been a geriatric social worker at IONA Senior Services since 2003. But interestingly enough, my professional career started as an elementary school teacher. I realized about my 4th year in and turning around and looking at the chalkboard and writing the assignment that this wasn't going to be where I was going to be as a lifetime career, and wanted something different. But I felt that it was, I deeply enjoyed it, but it was not a passion of mine, and decided about 4 years in that I was going to go back to school and earn my master's degree in social work. And I did that at Catholic University, and I taught during the day and took my classes at night, so it took a little bit longer, but no regrets, and it was one of the best decisions because it truly got me to where I am today. I actually had my last master's internship, at IONA Senior Services as a student, and was hired after graduation, so never left, which happens to many people who start at IONA because it's such a wonderful place. And once you're there, you're truly part of the family, and it's very hard to leave. And the reality is that people who work there, it is a passion and a real love to be doing what we're doing, and it's very hard to leave that environment. So I've been working and serving the community with working with older adults, families, and caregivers. Again, since before 2003. I provide consultation and care management, support to older adults and their families and caregivers. And as Paul mentioned, I'm often navigating services that just seem, totally overwhelming to many. It's not that, we're not intelligent, smart, creative people. The reality is that if you don't know a service exists, it's very hard to tap into that service. It's very hard to navigate programs and activities that you don't know are available. And often when there's a need, there's a lot of family and personal stress, and when we're stressed, it's very hard to really accomplish and focus. So I'm often working with individuals or families to alleviate that stress, and to be able to provide the services and programs and link them to those helpful pieces that can really change quality of life, safety, and overall health and well-being. I'm also the social worker for the villages and congregations in the community. Are people familiar with the villages? Yes. Okay. So wonderful. So if there's an issue with a member of a particular village, an executive director of the village can contact me, much like the model here, recognizing that it's out of their scope of expertise and they need some assistance. So I help navigate that. A National Presbyterian Church has been a model for a partnership for the community and for congregations. I'm so grateful to be part of this community, and hopefully, all or most of you know that that I am the social worker for you all, for your community here at the church. So whether it is an individual issue, a family issue, an adult-child issue, dealing with anything as far as needing consultation, counseling, coaching, caregiver support, you can reach out to me. And again, yeah, sure.
So which communities then are you referring to IONA, the villages? Villages through IONA?
Well, sorry. So I was just kind of explaining like the different roles and responsibilities that I have, and one, besides doing case management in the community, serving as an employee of IONA, I'm also through IONA Senior Services, the contact person for the villages. So
which
do any of them, all of them, like any executive director, like all the villages have like a head person who's involved with like taking concerns or calls or setting up the home visits for their village. So whether it's DuPont or Cleveland Park or Glover Park.
So DC area though?
Yes, sorry, yeah.
Metropolitan area.
Yeah, DC area.
We're starting one in our community.
And where is that?
It's University Park. But I didn't know if they usually have a social worker involved for the different villages.
Yeah, very few of these villages have an in-house social worker. So what happened just like as far as National Presbyterian Church recognized that there's a greater need than just having, the wonderful volunteers and the executive director, that at times there are needs that fall out of that scope. So again, the village as an organization came to IONA, and we met and felt that it would be in everyone's best interest if there was a point person. So if there's an issue within the village with a member, an executive director can call me. And we've reached out to Montgomery County villages that are forming as well. So that's not to say that we can't connect with your village.
But you're focused on the DC villages, DC area.
We're a surrounding area. It's not a closed door. Yeah, so there's opportunities for all.
Who forms these villages?
The communities, they're a nonprofit organization. So whereabouts are you? Are you in DC or Virginia or Maryland?
In DC. I'm just interested because I've never heard of villages.
Yeah, so it's a concept that is that really promotes aging in place, much like IONA Senior Services. That as long as it's a safe and environment and your quality of life is good, then we kind of don't fix it if it's not broken. Let's add some resources and see how you can age in place safely. So
who sets up the administrative structure?
That it's organizations, it's business within. So like if you live in the DuPont area, in the Cleveland Park area, the Glover Park area, afterwards I can connect with you and let you know who your village contact person would be.
Personal, I'm just interested in general picture.
Okay. So again, like that concept, for you all, most importantly to recognize that I'm a phone call away, email, I have my business cards in the folders and out. And I've met with so many people, and each time, I'll hear, as far as I wish I connected sooner, or I'm so glad I connected, and it's a wonderful partnership that I'm again so privileged to be part of. Whether it is a couple or an individual, an adult child from near or far, meeting and providing information, support, resources, again, sometimes linking service in the home, sometimes providing resources that can be connected outside of the home, helping the community, again, age in place safely, or at times needing to help find alternative living in whether it be continuum care, where there's a spectrum of you start perhaps independent retired community, then you move into more needs and assisted living to up to skilled nursing. Those are communities of care that people are looking into. Paul, earlier, I'm kind of going off my notes here, but good few-minute conversation. He was just saying, what do you plan before? Do you wait? Like, how do you figure that out? And that's a wonderful question. Personally and professionally, I've kind of preached that we shouldn't wait for the crisis and then figure it out. So there's many times that I meet with individuals before there's a need, active, still doing golf, still doing tennis, still babysitting grandchildren. But I'm thinking that this is like maybe a 5-7 years, this might change. And the reality is, 5 or 7 years is a wonderful thought, but we have no control over what tomorrow brings. What happens if we're diagnosed with something, if we have an accident, if something dramatically changes in our finances. There's so many what ifs that I really like to coach people that this is the best time when you're at that active level to be exploring, educating yourself, and thinking about options, so that when you do need a change, it is not that crisis, panic, overwhelming, I don't know how to deal with this, but you calmly can take out your folder, look through the options that you've looked at, and make an educated, personal choice without that panic feeling. So, we're fortunate to have good health, have networks of support, but we have to recognize at the same time that we don't have control of how long that lasts. So again, I'm constantly kind of promoting that it's never too early to research and have these conversations and explore. But the reality is that when it's too late, that's a very scary, overwhelming feeling. Again, so that's some of the coaching that I do and some of the assistance with providing resources and information. Again, just want to stress that I'm a phone call and email away. It's been a wonderful partnership that I really we want to continue and foster that kind of support. So no question is a question that's not worth asking. No thought is something that we can't explore. And again, it's a whole gamut. It's not just for the elder care concerns and needs. It's for the older adult children, for the spouse and for the individual that are facing either concerns or decisions, or also as we age, roles and responsibilities change, which causes sometimes relationship issues or emotional issues that whether it's adult children or a spouse or a caring relative or a friend has to deal with. So many times I counsel and work through that with the individual to just be at a healthier place. So just to say a little bit more about myself, my passion for working in this population with older adults and families and adult children came from a very personal place. As a young child and a young adult, I was lucky enough to grow up with my aunt and her family, and my uncle and his family, and my grandmother just a few miles away. They were part of the sports events and drove, and the weekends and the week. It didn't have to be such a planned event. And my grandmother was, very active. She drove and was part of our daily routine till she was 81. It wasn't until she was in her mid-80s that her health started to change. It was probably, closer to 86, 87. So she was driving and she everything was great. But again, something in her health changed, and that was no longer part of her daily routine. And I saw my mom and my aunt and my uncle kind of struggle with, like, now what? This hasn't been part of our plan, our lifestyle. We're not prepared for that. Suddenly, mom can't drive, mom's having health problems, she's living independently, all these things that, we deal with that are the reality hit hard when it's your reality. It became clear that, she wasn't able to live independently anymore. And at that time, a geriatric social worker, like, what was that? Who knew that? That's not a term or a profession that we were aware of. So my mom and her siblings, kind of rallied together and, did what they had to do. But, even as a young adult, I saw the toll it took on their relationship. I saw the toll it took on them individually. A lot of stress, and it was hard. Eventually, my aunt actually, built an addition onto her home, and my grandmother stayed there with some help until she died, which was a wonderful environment, but that's not realistic for many, and at that time it worked for them. But I remember the conversations I overheard, or the challenges that they were going to, and thinking, it's got to be easier than that. There's got to be ways that, that there could be services or programs that, they don't have to do it all. So it really taught me a valuable life lesson, and really directed me into an area that, I feel more than is, my job. I am truly considers myself lucky to say I really love what I do, and sometimes it drives my husband crazy in a good way, because to really enjoy what you do, and to not just say it but feel it, and want to be in the environment that you are in is really not the norm, unfortunately. So you hear so many people who kind of have to deal with the work week and check out and check in, and I truly I feel really wonderful to be able to say that, each day at IONA, in the community, doing what I do is really powerful and meaningful to me. So, graduating from Catholic University and having my internship at IONA was obviously meant to be. So I'm just grateful to be there and to be part of this community. Let me just tell you a little bit about IONA Senior Services, and hopefully, most of it is not a surprise. We're literally walking distance away. So that's also a wonderful reason why Reverend Donna Marsh at the time, thought this was, almost like an ideal marriage. How could we not be connected? Her vision really was true, that there's so much that we can offer one another, and we are. So IONA actually has been part of the community for 40 years. It helps older adults, their families, and caregivers as they experience challenges and opportunities of aging. And as I said, some of the services that we provide at IONA include care management, counseling, caregiver support. There's educational programs and social programs. In the folder, you'll see a brochure you can look at after. There's just so many things that you can tap into with the arts, and with exercise, and with all different types of programs. Speaking of the arts, we have a nationally recognized arts and wellness program, which is an adult day health center operating from Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, and I can answer any questions about that as well. But it's fully staffed with a social worker, nurses, activity programs. It is not it's 8 to 5. So some people say IONA House as if it's a residential. It's not. It's 8 to 5, but provides an amazing day of mental, physical, social stimulation, and combines it with art and wellness. So that is as part of IONA Senior Services as well. So Also, as I said, through our case management program and counseling, social workers like myself assess individual needs and monitor to make sure needs are being met, link to services and programs, and when things need to be arranged, help do that, and of course, continually advocate. I find over and over again, during home visits or meetings, individuals sometimes, are just quiet and not recognizing that, that their voice should be heard for multiple reasons. That, whether it's a discharge from a hospital or rehab and not getting the services or programs, we can deal with that before discharge, or somebody in their home that has been kind of covering up the need for support or help and can't cover up anymore, and then help that process, so that, again, always stressing the safety factor and the quality of life factor. And again, as Paul mentioned earlier, often dealing with individuals or sometimes families that are really in need of support and services but are so resistant. So we all have a way to get into their home and their hearts to hopefully facilitate some change. And that's always such a powerful, rewarding feeling, to be able to see the transition of somebody who has been living with some more struggles or challenges, and once it could be a small change that makes such a big difference. But again, people often resisting that to a point that's not safe or not healthy, and once there is that positive change, recognizes, oh my, this is so much easier, this is so much better, and then little by little more services and more programs could be linked. So it's wonderful when we can do that. So I shared a lot about my history and IONA's background, and before diving into the next part, anybody have any questions or comments? And I want to address successfully aging and some other topics that are in the folder, and some of the stuff that I put in the folder, we won't get to because of time, but I still thought that it's worth to put in the folder. So my card's in there. If you have any questions that we don't reach today, please feel free to know that I'm very reachable. But before we move on, does anybody have any questions or comments? Yeah.
At IONA, your clients, do they come usually every day, 5 days a week, or do they just tend to come one day a week? Or
so you're referring to the Art and Wellness program?
I guess so.
Okay, yeah, so that's actually a separate program, but within IONA Senior Services. So that program, individuals really, you can cater to your own personal needs. They request that it's 2 times a week, just because that the consistency makes a big difference, and routine, and for the staff and for the participants to be comfortable. But there's some people that it's open from 8 to 5 for participants, but often it's some people come after breakfast, so it could be 10 and come at 2. It's really it's very personal, and you can make up your own schedule, but there's 2 purposes. One is for the participant to be enriched in the environment, and socially, again, physically, mentally, and emotionally stimulated positively with activity and socialization, but also a wonderful opportunity for the caregiver to have respite and to know that their loved one is in a loving environment and having a wonderful experience while there. So sometimes the caregiver is still working, and sometimes they're retired or not working. So it caters to what works best for both of them. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Do you all help with transportation for elderly who can't get to the art?
Yeah, well, that's one of the biggest problems, not just with IONA, but just, in the area, to be able to manage that need, which is really, we don't have to be experts to recognize that, if individuals can't get to some place, they can't benefit from what it is that's what's going on. we try as hard as we can, and we're as creative as we can. We have recently have a van through IONA that we can work out some transportation, and then we have other creative ways. I can't say that it'll always be the case that it could happen, but they try really hard to figure out a way and work with the individuals to get them, if they don't have a caregiver, the easy access to the car and drop off. So we can't say yes all the time, but we certainly don't say no all the time. We try. Yes?
Do you still have the 5-day daycare program, or is that?
Yeah, that's the art and wellness. So it is Monday through Friday, but not everybody takes advantage of Monday through Friday. But it's available Monday through Friday. Yes?
Do most people get there on the metro?
No. Yeah, no. The people who are participating, have, it could be a memory, a cognitive decline, physical, so people aren't coming independently. They're staying independently because we have a wonderful staff there. But they're coming with the support of a family member or a caregiver to drop off.
What level of, like you mentioned, memory care individuals, what level of rehabilitation or whatever do folks have that you can still provide for in this?
In the arts and wellness program?
Physically as well as mentally.
Yeah. I mean, there's a spectrum that, again, there's nurses and the social worker, and they really strive to be as inclusive as possible, as long as it's a benefit to the whole environment and the group. So there's a full assessment before, and there's care plans during. So it's not a surprise or there's constant communication. So they're able, with the staff that they have, for participants to truly be part of the group. And there's higher functioning members. So it goes through the whole spectrum. Yeah. I'm sorry, you had a question right behind.
2 points. Are you a nonprofit?
Correct.
And if so, do you work with for-profit organizations that provide in-home services?
Yes. So I'm often with individuals with my consultations. One of the I want to say the biggest, but it's usually on the top 3 of when we talked before, when I asked what, if you can tell me what, for me to be as efficient as possible when we meet, what are the top 3 things that you want to achieve during our meeting so that I'm prepared? And 9 out of 10 times that is one of the issues on the list, that either needing it now, or if I do need home health care, where do I go? And one of the unfortunately I have about 15 or so of these, but I can always bring more. This is our resource guide, and there are anywhere from 50 to 100 different agencies, say, in there. But I always say to people that are sitting across from me, one of the benefits of having this meeting is you can look through that book and do an eating, meeny, miny, mo, or I like that name better than that name, give a call and hope for the best. But sitting down with me, or a geriatric social worker with that kind of background, I can truly say, these are the 3 that I would use if I had a family member in need. Not to say that they're problem-free, or that there's not going to be any issue. I can promise you that. But when there is an issue, when there is a concern, they're on the front line. They're proactive. The staff is able to work with challenges. So again, that's something that I do. That I'll after meeting the family or the individual, get a sense of what is really needed, what the environment would work best in, place a few calls to the agencies that I work most closely with, and then follow up with the individual. Okay, I talked to them, they really do have what would work for you. Now you can give them a call, they know who you are, and they're expecting your call. So I help navigate that type of service as well. I also do different support groups. in the community as well as in IONA for caregivers and for individuals with memory loss. So that's also something that we do through IONA. We're constantly trying to reach out and provide services, but also an environment that is so much needed for overall health and emotional well-being. Was that, yeah?
I have one other question about, does IONA have financial services or partner with somebody in helping an elderly in kind of maneuvering the really complex financial burdens that a lot of these different programs
We tap into for different services. There are different programs within, I'm talking specifically in DC that are subsidized or that are even without cost. Unfortunately, I can't say there's no waiting lists, but I recently just for a client of mine who here's a situation that is unfortunate, but is not unusual. Again, kind of as Paul mentioned, the senior orphan complex that she's been living alone for decades and living the way that she has for decades. So for somebody coming into the home might be appalled and concerned and really taken aback. This is the way she's been functioning for 20 plus years. So for her it's a norm. For us, unfortunately, it's not the way we would want our mother or aunt or wife to be living. So, but didn't feel like she needed help. But clearly, the home is in complete disarray. She's not able to manage her daily needs or activities of daily living independently. So, and she doesn't have the finances. So, this is not, a random case. Unfortunately, this is, a reality for so many. So, there are agencies that we're able to tap into, and she will be getting care 2 or 3 days a week without it being tapped into her finances. Also, meals will be starting. She was just having basically toast because that was easy. So meals will be starting. Things like that she didn't ask for. She didn't know it existed. But after a home visit and me seeing how she's functioning and what she's missing, one thing leads to another, and then services can be put in place. And there are also, the other extreme where, people come to me and sit down and say, this is my situation, this is what I need, and, not that I'm willing to spend, my entire savings, but, money's not an issue, I just want the services. So, then I can work with them knowing that they can afford and put them into place with services of need. And that's the other, the home care and the other programs that that can help them day to day, hour to hour. So I just in light of time, we won't be able to cover everything in the folder, but hopefully this type of conversation and discussion is just as meaningful. And that the handouts that we don't cover, you can look at and know that if you have a question or concern, you can reach out to me, or perhaps it can cause a discussion amongst you at another time, and feel free to call me again. But I just want to touch, because we are talking about different buzzwords that are coming out, aging in place and quality of life and things of that nature. I just want to touch on a few things in the folder before our time is up. So if you take a look, I just, without even worrying about the first page, because that there's a lot of different thoughts and questions on there, I do have a question for you all as far as what your thought, when you hear successfully aging, what does that mean to you? How does a person look or feel or act if they are successfully aging? Does anybody have a thought about that? What does successfully aging mean to you?
Staying healthy.
Okay, wonderful.
And mentally alert.
Uh-huh. great, yeah. Yes,
Keeping some autonomy.
okay,
Yes.
wonderful, yeah,
I think they get peace with the circumstances,
Mhm.
as we progress.
okay,
And being able to live on what money you have.
okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh, yeah, a realistic value of aging. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, good, okay, yeah, sorry.
I would say that you, whatever lifestyle that you have, that as a Christian, you're knowing that Jesus Christ is your Savior.
Amen.
Sorry, was that again? Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to pick up on what Elise said and say that I worry about this label of successful. We've got David Brooks coming this week, and he's going to talk about how that's a problem in our society, the drive for
That's right.
success. Why do we have to age successfully? And what on earth does it mean? Do we want to age prayerfully, perhaps? Or hopefully? Or maybe struggling with the Lord? There are all, I mean, all this stuff about successful, it's also superficial. What is going on at the depths of our soul? That's what
Amen.
you're talking about, isn't
Amen.
it, Elise?
We can phrase that as healthy aging, gracefully aging. The healthy component is really what it, I hear what you're saying. I'm not referring to that as a financial success, a personal success that you're getting rewarded for, but rather a healthy aging factor.
But let's face up to the fact that we're going to be miserable, some of us. And there's nothing wrong with being miserable. It's through the Bible. It's life. God, nobody wants to admit the misery and the suffering in life.
The concept of the healthy aging, also, if you look at, this picture that, may cause a smile or may cause, frustration, the point being that, there are components. We don't need experts to tell us that, being active is good for you. It's good for your mind, it's good for your body. Socializing is good. Those that are isolated tend to be depressed. Those that are depressed obviously have other health issues. Those that stay mentally active, cognitively, are healthier. And those that eat right and are mindful of their day-to-day habits are usually more positive people. And people who are more positive tend to be healthier people with a better outlook. So that's kind of like the healthy idea of aging. And there's no textbook of I am 67 now and I am going to age healthy. I recently met with a client who it just turned 66 and kind of like, well, I'm done throwing in the towel. Like there's nothing else I can do. Like life is too hard. Every day is a struggle. And I actually had to think about it clinically. It might not have been like the best approach, but I said to her, after our meeting is done, I'm meeting with a client that is 98. So I want you to think about my thoughts and your thoughts about you at 66 feeling like, I'm done, when I'm meeting with a 98-year-old who wants to talk about programs and activities and has, a very different outlook. So, that's just something to keep in mind that, there's no age in when this process starts. There's much that we have control over as in our mental capacity and in our thoughts that sometimes, work to our advantage and sometimes truly work to our disadvantage. So we just need to be mindful of that. And this kind of image illustrates, what I thought kind of captures how staying socially engaged, staying physically engaged, staying mentally engaged, being with others, kind of is the recipe for healthy living. There's a small percentage of, actually it's experts say that only 30% of our physical aging can be traced to genes. So that means 70% is up to you, give or take. So, so we can argue about, different parts of, the things that you do, and unfortunately, health still is a factor. But the reality is that, we have much more control than sometimes we realize to make good choices for our health, for our body, and for our minds. That goes a long way. So, yes.
Yeah, in response to your first item there, what one thinks living successfully, I've been aging quite a lot for quite a few years. I just feel like I'm with friends here, so I can share that tomorrow I'm going to turn 88.
Oh, happy birthday. Yeah, that's wonderful.
I've been through a health crisis in the last few years, and I recognize many of the symptoms set to beautiful poetry in Ecclesiastes 12. I'm always in this front row seat, and other things I won't mention. But,
Right.
I think doing this successfully is making the most of it despite limitations, and continuing to find enjoyment
Yes.
in being alive.
Good for you.
And I think another important thing is to be able to, one sees the end coming, but to face that with confidence and without undue fear and disturbance. It has helped me a lot to recognize that I don't face it alone. I've said to people sometimes that, my life is in God's hands, and I feel like He's sort of holding my hand when the difficult times come. And I think that's a relationship we also give some thought to and try to foster. Well, I guess that's about the end of
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing.
the two main things to me is to try to stay active as you can, find enjoyment in it, and go with God.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's beautifully put. And so true to so many. That again, people are constantly, referring to studies and what experts say, but you're your own expert. You know what works for you, and clearly that's what works. The smile on your face and the energy in your voice as you're saying that, it hits home, to me, and I'm sure to many others, that when you are engaged and when you have meaning and purpose in your life, you're a happier, healthier person, even if you have some health issues, if that makes sense. That you're able to, really see that and feel that, is wonderful. Thank you. So again, the pictures and the description, kind of summarizes, and with things that you shared, whether it be, gracefully aging or successfully aging, those are the components of that, and that, not every day is it a perfect day that you're eating right, that you're exercising, that you're mentally and physically engaging, but each day that you do as much as you can to fulfill those pieces of the recipe, chances are that you're more satisfied and you feel better. And that's really what it comes down to. And from your own experiences that when you're feeling good, chances are, you're more interested in engaging with others. Chances are you're more interested in, activities and programs. You're feeling good, you're looking good, you're presenting yourself well, opposed to the days that, you're not feeling that way. And it makes a big difference on your overall health and emotional well-being.
One of the factors I haven't heard you mention yet is the role of the extended family in successful aging.
Sure.
And you talk more about institutions, whether they be nonprofit or private or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think a part of successful aging is how people around you deal with your aging.
Sure, sure. You know,
And
the
so
model
just
isn't, yeah.
What I am observing, my wife is a very caring person. She takes care of 3 or 4 really aging people beyond our aging. And we have noticed that the families being somewhat split up geographically, the extended family tends to depend upon younger friends to take care of the older people. People in their 70s taking care of people in their 80s, and the family will stay away and depend upon friends or neighbors to do that. Now that I'm coming back to successful aging as how does it relate to your family and other people around you? Have you taken care of all these issues well enough so that they are not put upon too much?
That's a good point. You know, we mentioned earlier, you know, for the profit, nonprofit, you know, the agencies or the continuum of care, but you know, that's not the model for everyone for numerous reasons. And you know, people are becoming more creative and outside of the box with their, you know, long-term plans. And for some, they're fortunate enough to have a support network, whether it be family or friends or community, and can tap into that. And that's, you know, for many, that's a lifesaver, literally, that they're able to do that. You know, unfortunately, for some, that's not an option, that, you know, they don't have that network or that support. But for many that do have it, you know, it's something that, you know, truly works until it can't work any longer for multiple reasons. But
it's partly a decision of the person who's aging. They may attempt to have aging in place, which is great for them, but in order to do that, they must really rely on many people to help them.
Yeah, right. So not everybody has that, right? Yeah.
Can sometimes be joyful to do that, or joyful and, well, I better do that.
Yeah, right. It's a responsibility sometimes that people didn't sign up for. So, you know, that we're mindful of that. And that's why I do a lot of consults with caregivers, whether, you know, that was their intention or that was what they, you know, kind of, you know, woke up to knowing that that's their new role. You know, and caregiving, you know, takes its toll. You know, physically, emotionally, financially, takes its toll, and people are pushed to the limits. And that's why, you know, really, you know, we have these support groups, we have these opportunities for consultation. In the folder, also, you know, I'll just point out, you know, I have what I give caregivers is caregiver survival tip sheet. And I say, you know, put it on your refrigerator, put it by your mirror, make sure you look at it daily. Not every day is going to be a 10, but like, you know, the day that you're missing something, try the next day to think about that a little bit differently. And, you know, just what you were saying, that we, you know, we strive, you know, because, you know, again, you know, research studies show that, you know, caregivers are often neglecting themselves. So that means their health is often at jeopardy. So, you know, I'm always stressing the well-being and health of caregivers, to take a minute and assess your well-being. You know, when's the last time you did something for yourself in a relaxing, peaceful way? You know, when's the last time you had a good night's sleep? When's the last time you ate your 3 meals without the concern of a phone call or needed to leave an event early? That takes its toll. And, you know, the reality is that if you're caring for somebody else, you can't care for somebody else if you're not well. So it's not a luxury, it's a necessity for you to care for yourself at any time, but certainly when you're responsible for caring for somebody else. So I just kind of point out, you know, this kind of ladder to be mindful of. And again, you know, earlier we stressed this, that, you know, planning ahead. Don't wait until the crisis hits you to say, oh, I wish I had some information, things of that nature. Going all about to having contingency plan, because sometimes the best made plans are not working when they're put into action. You know, make your health a priority. Share with others. Accept help. Which, you know, sometimes, you know, you hear it with young mothers. You hear it with older couples, you hear it with older individuals, you know, it's just easier to do by myself, you know, but like sometimes it's harder to delegate. But once you allow the help and services in, it's almost like you know, it's a change of life experience for you to recognize and to get that kind of support. I know your hand was up before we end. Yes.
As Christians, using the word successful, one of the things that we ought to do is to continue to follow Christ's command to help and serve other people. It's not just that we're getting the help. Now, an older person can't go and work in a soup kitchen. But what can you do? You can pray. One can talk, email, write, look for what people need, where you can help them, give money if you have money, even in small amounts. In other words, getting help is one thing, but we're not exempt until we die from Christ's command to help others. Are we?
You know, it's a wonderful model to see the give and take, and I've seen it so much that people are appreciative and give back in many different ways. So you know, that's a model that, you know, is innate for so many. So it's good to be reminded. In the folder, also with lack of time, I just want, you know, to just point out there's other handouts that relate to what we talked about and beyond, preparing to care and documents and things to think about. You know, often, you know, just if nothing, you know, it's food for thought for you to have some discussions that maybe you haven't had before, that kind of, you know, now with some background you feel more comfortable having. You know, that's a success in itself. And there's information again about support and reducing stress, because as we all know, we all have stress, but how we deal with stress can really be a difference of you know, our overall well-being, and to be mindful of that. And then just you know, another article about, you know, the benefits of, you know, staying social, physically active. And again, most importantly, my card is here. You have my number and my email. If you want to follow up on a one-on-one to discuss this or other issues or needs, know that you know, I'm happy to schedule with you. And again, you can meet here. I usually meet at the Satellite Library or at IONA Senior Services. So know that I'm available to you, and please spread the word to others that you know could benefit, and I'm happy to meet with you at any point. Yes?
I just want to mention that Lisa is under contract with our church, so this is part of IONA services, and you alluded to it, Lisa. And it's only because of Lisa's skill here that the NPC is becoming a model for other churches. Donna Marsh is going to be at a breakfast early June, along with Lisa. But there are some 50 churches and synagogues that used to have a loose membership. We had no Lisa. Now Lisa's here to allow a church, if they have the means, to contract with IONA for services. So it's a legitimate use. It's in the bulletin several times a month. Lisa's name and contact number, the same as her card. So it's a wonderful relationship between the two organizations.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, it really has been, again, a model relationship that, you know, we're kind of, you know, like how is it in every congregation in synagogue tapped into this type of model, because there's just so many benefits. So we're just so grateful to Reverend Donna Marsh's vision that became a reality a few years ago. So thank you for your time this morning, and again, know that I am just a phone call or email away, and we'll be happy to set something up with you.
Great, Lisa. That is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
And again, there's some up here, and I'll bring some more if you all, you know, just let me know if you need some more.
As you were talking about this healthy aging, and I was thinking of my mother. We just celebrated her 100th birthday last month, and she had a big party with 100 friends and lots of things. She's plugged into her community. She's very outgoing and gregarious, and every time you talk to her, she's talking about somebody else, some stranger that you don't know. But she's always outward centered, and so, you know, that old story of laugh and the world laughs with you, weep and you weep alone. She's always cheerful. Everybody loves her and likes to meet with her. She goes to church every week, and she has plugged into all those folks, plus other social groups that she's involved with. So she's very socially active. Plus she takes a walk every day. She goes and works on this computer program to drill your brain, keep your brain active. So she can still thread needles and write nice letters, and she passed her driver's test with 100%. Yeah. So she's my role model in the future. Now, just an announcement about next week, we will have Daniel Spiro here. He is wrestlers. We do all kinds of things. We invite all kinds of people. Daniel Spiro is a Jewish man. He's not a Christian, and we've had Muslims and Mormons and other people in here. But he will be talking to us about a book he wrote recently. He lives locally here, and he will be talking about some challenging questions in understanding God. So please come and hear Daniel. Let's close in prayer. And Lord, we do thank you for this wonderful opportunity to get acquainted with Lisa and with all the services that she can help us to provide, and also that we can help spread the word about this to others. And we thank you for the leadership of this church that has made this possible for us. So thank you for this time of fellowship together. In Jesus' name, amen. See you next week.